Thanks, Chaz. It's great to be in the studio and great to be here with my old mate Graham Cotter, who's my guest today on over at Cuppa. Welcome to the studio, Graham.
Thanks, Max.
It's good to see you, mate. We've got a lot of listeners, probably people out west from where you come from and also Townsville, and we've got people from all over the world listening through the internet thanks to modern technology, including my Canadian connection. I've got rallies over there in Toronto. My sister Dawn and her son Steve, Steve's wife Kelly, and of course Big Braden, he's about 6'7". He could be a good Aussie rules player if I could get him out here. And of course Brooklyn, Steve and Kelly's daughter, who tells me that she thinks it's cool that we're able to catch up with her mother after so many years. She's my stepsister. And also Elva's listening, one of your mates, who's given us a bit of advice on how we can improve the show. We appreciate that, Elva. And Ruth, your social media girl, she's listening. So welcome all our new listeners, and particularly welcome to our loyal listeners. And we do have quite a few people out there who listen in and enjoy our chats with interesting characters, and none more interesting than you, Graham. You've got a few nicknames, mate. The Augathella fella, the man in the hat, the Buddha of the bush, Lappy and Tex. Now, you know, what's your favourite nickname? Where'd you get all those nicknames from?
I guess you acquire those from over time, but everyone in Augathella had a nickname.
Yeah, probably some there we couldn't publish. Yeah. Some of your old girlfriends might have names for you that we can't publish. So you were born in Charleville and moved about an hour away to Augathella when you were only about one. Is it rivalry between those two centres out there in the bush?
When it comes to playing footy, Max, all those smaller towns, it's it gets pretty serious. And but yeah, no, I guess Charleville was the main the railhead, so it was pretty important. And,
and then a lot of history out that way too. Back in the days when sheep were big, places like Longreach, Winton, Charleville, Augathella, those places were very big and important centres.
Oh, definitely, Max. You know, I think Augathella had about probably 4 shearing teams back in those days. You know, and it was. It was certainly very busy in those little country towns.
It's a shame to see. I know Blackwall, they had a gentleman's club there that was huge. You know, all the Graziers were members there. It's a shame to see what's happening out in those bush towns. And we talked about horse racing before we came on air. Bush racing back in those days, that was the glue that held those communities together. Everybody had horses, and they'd all come to town or come to the local race club every now and again, and it'd be a big social event for the whole district.
Oh, definitely. It was, and that's that connection, that social connection, so critically important in the bush, Max. It really is.
And did you miss that when you eventually came to town? That sort of connection to your local community?
Yeah, I guess I did. And Townsville was only a big country town back in '69 when we actually moved here, and. I was the only family member that stayed, because Townsville to me it's a good solid place.
Yeah.
It's always there's no peaks and troughs like Cairns or one of those places. It's just a good solid town.
Well, you grew up in the town of Augathella, and you always aspired to be a bank manager, you said, from a young age. Why was that? Were you good at figures, or was it just you think that bank managers had plenty of money and big cars and that sort of thing? What was the reason for that dream?
I got no idea, Max. Like it was started real early, and even as a 4-year-old, if someone said, "What are you going to be when you grow up, Lappy?" I'd say, "I'm going to bank manager, going to be a bank manager."
Well, most kids want to be a policeman or a fireman. You want to be a bank manager. Yeah. It's pretty hard to, when I picture you out there barefoot and running around with Trixie, your little dog, out on the sand flat behind the house there, and there you are wanting to be a bank manager. You must have had a pretty good life growing up as a kid there.
Oh yeah, no. Well, there's 6 of us all up, Max. So there was and Cotter's Place was a drop-in centre, and there's always a game of cricket or footy out in the middle of the road, and
no television, mate.
Oh, no television, mate. Yeah, no television.
Radio, and I suppose just a bit of homegrown entertainment, music, and so on.
Yeah, well, we always played a lot of card games. Euchre, the old grandmother, mum's mum, we used to play euchre and all those sorts of card games when we were kids, and the radio was pretty important. There was some the children's hour when I got home from school. That was pretty special. I always remember Maxie. My name is Maxie. I drive a taxi. I give the kids a lift around the square. But you always have to promise me to brush your teeth and always comb your hair. So there you go, Max.
That's a very good advice, and I know your life now has turned after having spent a life in business. You're now a business coach, author, life coach, and podcaster. And most of the podcasts I've listened to, and the interesting yarns from the anthill is the name of one podcast. You Wouldn't Be Dead for Quids is another, very earthy. Yeah. And the advice you give is based around basics, the basics of life: respect, obedience, doing the right thing, and that must have been, those values must have been drummed into you as a kid growing up at home there.
Oh, definitely, Max. And when you grow up in a small town like Uwathala, well, there's not a lot you can get away with.
Yeah.
There'll be always someone that'd see you.
And the local copper, he'd know all the kids in town too, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. And actually, my grandfather, he was a copper out in Thargomindah. So there's 3 generations of the Carneys that were finished up policemen. So yeah.
So Mum was a Carney, was she?
Yeah, Mum was a Carney. Yeah.
Right. Well, tell us about Mum. Mum was Kathleen, and you say she was from Gatton originally. What sort of a lady was she?
Mum was pretty special. Yeah, to put up with all of us, she was pretty special. Yeah, and sort of she was a stay-at-home mum. The old fella, Dad, Eddie, he was a jack of all trades, and shearer's cook, and worked on, just turned his head into anything. Actually, he was actually at one stage he was a night cart man.
Was he?
Yeah. So you always sort of got a fair bit of how'd you say flack about who's the strongest man in town. Eddie Cotter, he picks up what everyone else drops and what have you.
You would have copped a bit of that.
No shortage of that.
Yeah. Well, and what about how would you rate Dad was he a tough disciplinarian, a hard man? How would you describe him?
Tough and fair, Max. Like I mean to say, if you stepped out of line, you knew about it. And but no, and Mum was sort of Mum had a subtle way of disciplining us. Like we're having a rock fight out the front there, and all she did was walk out on the veranda and yell out, "You knock their eye out, you'll have to marry him." So that put an end to the rock fight. So.
Yes, yeah. How did Mum and Dad meet?
The old fella got injured in PNG and during the Second World War, and he had a busted leg, and he finished up back in Australia down that country, and Mum was one of the nurses down there involved with the hospital. So yeah, so it was so that's how they met. Really.
So one of the things that I try to instill in my kids was the work ethic. That anything you earn in life has to come through hard work. Was that, I guess, Dad being a jack of all trades and working around the local properties and so on, you would have learned a fair bit of that from him, and also reinforced by Mum.
Yeah, well, actually, Max, just, as you were saying that, I sort of, like you just did it. You're given a chore, you might drag your feet sometimes and get a clap under the ear, but more often than not, you just hooked in. It had to be done. So and I guess that's probably. I say to people, I've never had a job in my life that I've hated. I've had some pretty crappy jobs, but it's all about your attitude.
Exactly, yeah. And we talked about your little dog Trixie and the happy childhood you had on the sand flat behind your place. Bare feet, no doubt. You had a goat in the backyard, and also goats' heads out in the scrub where your feet would be like rocks, I suppose. Nowadays, how would you go on a goat's head now?
Oh. Pretty soft, Max. Real soft. Actually.
Yeah, but back then,
back then it was just part of the course, mate.
Yeah,
what I mean to say. It was you had feet like leather. Actually, the bottoms as holes of your feet.
And yes, this old-fashioned hobbies like shooting and camping, that sort of thing. You had an old mate there, Darcy Ogden, who you referred to as Unc. He wasn't your real uncle, but he was a mate from used to take you out bush.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, Darcy and I were good mates. Even as he gave me my first job actually as a 9-year-old. He was a reshooter as well, so I used to spot for him, and and ladies' ammunition. Like I mean to say, when you think, today you wouldn't even, the shock, horror, and all the rest of it. But when you're 9 years old, you're taught how to do things properly, and you're just the way you did it. So sixpence a roo you used to get. So
and rabbits, you'd shoot rabbits.
Oh
too.
yeah, rabbits. Yeah.
Did you have ferrets or did you shoot them?
No, she used to shoot them or snare them, and Mum used to cook them. She'd cook them up.
Yeah,
same with the pigeons. Used to had the daisy air off them, but you needed probably 6 or 7 pigeons to make a decent soup.
Yes, yeah. So Mum was a Catholic, so you grew up in a Catholic household, even though Dad wasn't all interested in religion at all. But you started off going to the St Joseph's Catholic Primary School there with the nuns, or you refer to them as the Crows.
The Crows, yeah. They had back in those days. They had the black, the dark brown habits, and basically all you could see was their mouth and their eyes. The rest of it was all covered. So, yeah, they were pretty scary back in those days.
Yeah, they're pretty tough too, no doubt.
They were tough.
Yeah, and your sister Tony befriended them in later years and got to know the old girls.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing that frail old ladies they were, and like me to say the scary, individuals that they were back in the day when we were kids. It was it was totally different.
You struggled a bit at school too, Graham. You had trouble with your eyes, and you didn't realise at the time what was causing it. But what was the issue there?
I had astigmatism, Max. Didn't realise until I actually went to school. I was pretty much partly blind, but I always managed to get by. It's like all those things, and I did have a certain amount of vision and what have you. I wasn't totally blind, but the school nurse used to come out through those bush towns, and she picked it up then. So I probably did year 1 and part of year 2. With hardly being able to see the blackboard and those sorts of things. So which is quite common. I wasn't Robinson Crusoe, and back in those days with kids with disabilities that they weren't aware of, and we just got on. And
so how'd they fix that?
I finished up with glasses and what have you.
So what is stigmatism? It's
the eyeball's the wrong shape, Max. It's an oval shape instead of a round shape. So basically, so when the light hits it, it's distorted. So, and I remember the first time I got the glasses, I lived in a high house, and I had to crawl up the stairs on my hands and knees because just until I
couldn't see the steps.
Until the glasses, adjusted to the glasses.
Well, that's one of the many difficulties that you're able to overcome in your life, Graham, and we'll hear more about that when we come back after the break. We asked you to choose some music for us before the show, and I love this first choice, Amazing Grace, and you asked me to pick a version of my own choice, and I picked the one by Judy Collins, who I think's got one of the best voices I've heard. Why did you select this song, Amazing Grace?
I guess it's always appealed to me, Max. It's just one of those, you hear it a lot. It doesn't appeal to me. It appeals to a big chunk of the population, especially in our area anyway. It's an amazing song. It has a message as well.
Yeah. Well, maybe Mum had a hand in the back of your mind when you chose the song, because Mum was a Catholic, and if she is listening up there, we dedicate this song to her. Amazing Grace by Judy Collins.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious The hour I first believed, through many dangers, toils and snares, we have already gone. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we know less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
And that was Amazing Grace by Judy Collins. Did you know that our sponsors at AAA FNQ Battery Wholesalers will do a free battery test for you? And if you need a new battery, they'll fit it for free on standard under-bonnet installs. For your next battery, pop in and see Steve and our team at AAA FNQ Batteries, 59 Ingham Road, and you can get them on 4779 6888.
Judy here at Mary May Caring for You. If you have an NDIS plan for supported independent living, then call me on 0409 140133. We have beautiful homes in Douglas, Kerwin, North Shore and Bushland Beach. We have friendly and passionate carers in our homes 24/7. Find us online at marymay.au. We are proud sponsors of Triple T.
Enjoy wherever you are.
The footy is on for 2024 and there's a place for every supporter in Townsville. If your team is visiting to play the Cowboys, round up your crew, get your colours on and join the away team supporters at our sponsors, the Herbert Hotel. Great meals, cold drinks and just a stone's throw away from the stadium. Join the fun and support your team. It's always happening at the Herbert. 102 Sturt Street, Townsville City.
Meeting on the second Sunday of the month from February to December. The Herbert River Orchid and Allied Plant Society meet at Conroy Hall, starting at 1:30pm. There is something for everyone with the plant displays, guest speakers, raffles, followed by afternoon tea. So if you'd like to learn more about growing orchids and plants, go along for a great afternoon out. For more information, find us on Facebook or contact Di on 0438 758 320. Triple T Community Supporter.
Hi,
Hi, this is Jo Desmond, reminding you that 7 Local News is simulcast live every weeknight from 6 on 103.9 Triple T. When it comes to what's happening in Townsville and North Queensland, 7 Local News has it covered. Listen live when you're driving, working late, or on your evening walk or jog. Join us for all the big stories of the day on 7 Local News, weeknights at 6 on 7 and simulcast on 103.9 Triple T.
Welcome back to Over a Cuppa, our regular Monday morning chat show, and we're chatting with Graham Cotter, who's an old mate of mine. We worked together when we both at the Bulletin back in the late 90s, early 2000s. We'll come to that, Graham, later in our chat. Graham is a very interesting character. Comes from Augathella, lots of nicknames, which we mentioned earlier. One of them was Lappy. Where did you get that one from, Graham?
I got that one pretty early, Max. There's cause football, rugby league was the how'd you say, that was the mainstay of all those country towns, and there was a footballer out there called John Lapthorne, and his nickname was Lappy, and as a little fella I used to go to the footy, and when we played footy in the backyard, I was always Lappy.
Well,
always Lappy.
Yeah.
So that's a family name. It sort of stuck pretty well, actually.
Well, you probably, I know you tried to play rugby league, but with the stigmatism you mentioned, that was probably precluded any great future in the game. Stigmatism, which was remedied through glasses, and luckily that was picked up early in your life. It's not the only challenge you've had to face, Graham. In fact, I know you've had bowel cancer and depression, and we'll talk about that in more detail a bit later, but hypnosis, under hypnosis was discovered that you were carrying quite a few crosses in those early years, a fear of failure and a fear of missing out on things.
Yeah, Max, it's pretty amazing actually for me to be in that space. But coming to the realisation of hypnosis. Well, I refer to it as a software engineer, and that's why I call myself now as a software engineer, just working with the most complex computer known to man, and that's that muscle between our ears, and buried in there a lot of the of issues that we have through our lives, they put in place, and they're actually hardwired into that subconscious mind. And the conception to 7 is the most prevalent part of where all that automatic programming is in place, and especially in that emotional area. And mine was a fear of failure, and also a fear of being punished, and that come from the nuns actually, because if you failed, then they didn't mess around. There'll be a lot of people out there that'll be nodding their heads and saying you're not wrong there, because
a unique way of getting your attention. Didn't they?
Yeah, very, very, it's very.
So the hypnosis, that forms part of your current work as a business and life coach, I guess. Is that you unearth lots of repressed memories of that nature?
Max, it's pretty amazing actually and some of those memories, it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, and any number of things of how much it's stemmed from that early childhood, and some of the horrendous things that happen in those orphanages and those sorts of things, and a lot of those people that come through that era, they've struggled all their lives, and in a lot of cases, finished up committing suicide. Because
with our war veterans, the old fellas that came home from the war and used to sit quietly in the corner, we think, what's wrong with our old granddad? Yeah. That was part of the burden he was carrying. What they see at the front line is we don't want to talk about that. Yeah,
no, that's exactly right. And one of the rules of the mind, actually, Max, is to keep us safe and alive. And unfortunately, sort of in those situations, that replay, it's replaying because just sort of trying to remind you that don't get into that situation again. But it's debilitating, and it destroys people's lives, because we are what we think. We're here today. I'm talking to you, and you're talking to me, and we're here as a result of how we think. So it's.
You mentioned suicide, Graham, and it's a subject we don't like to discuss in great detail. But have you had an issue there?
Yeah, Max. Yeah, no, the gremlins caught up with me eventually. I was in probably mid-50s, and it wasn't until I started in this hypnosis and had a rapid transformational therapy session with someone else, and that was doing the training with me, and that was an aha moment. And I said, oh, crikey, I've I wasn't ever aware of it, and I never made that connection. But and when that connection was made, it was very obvious. It really was very obvious.
Well, you probably just had to toughen up in those young years. You wouldn't have been aware of all this scientific approach to mental illness, but you just had to toughen up, and that's what it was like in the bush in those days, or like in life generally. So after school, you... after primary school, you came to Townsville when you were about 14 in 1969. You went to our Ladies Mount in Iggy Park. You're one of the early kids at Iggy Park.
Yeah, one of the first. I'm an Iggy Park original, and the Ladies Mount, the last of that crew. We come in '69, so '69 I did the last 6 months at our Ladies Mount, and then the next year it rolled out to Iggy Park.
Yeah, and what did you do after you left school? You're only 15 when you left. So.
Yeah, well, I fulfilled that. I started on that ambition to become a bank manager, Max.
Did you? Join the bank, did you?
Yeah, joined the National Bank, yeah. It was pretty amazing. 5 days. My birthday's actually on the last day of the year, 31st of the 12th, 55. And so on the last... It was had my birthday, and 5 days later I started in the National Bank as a junior.
Years old. Yeah. That would have been a bit of an eye opener, wouldn't it, for a bush kid coming to the big smoke and working with adults at the age of 15?
Well, I guess probably I've always sort of been, how'd you say, pretty centred anyway, Max. Like I mean to say, and it was amazing. And back in those days, there was no computers or anything like that. It was you did most of it in your head, all the interest calculations and all the
old adding machines.
Yeah, well, actually, my first adding machine actually pulled the handle down.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then we got a Canon. It was an electronic one, and then but the big machine that they used, the ledger machines that they did most of the entering on, they were just like giant abacuses. And when the tech pulled the back off, I just sat there and memorised all these brass rods and how it was just amazing. It was really, I was still gobsmacked at how they operated.
Yeah. How do you go with the modern technology nowadays? Have you adapted to it? You use it, because you're always pretty good at figures. In the old, you learnt the hard way. You by rote at school, and the crack on the back of the hand if you got something wrong. But these new machines, how do you go with the technology nowadays?
Max, from 15 in 1971 to where I am now, and then just technology has been a big part of my life and been a big part of your life as well. It's just you sort of grow with it, and
you have to grow with it. You have to go to survive.
Yeah, change is one of the is a given.
Mm-hmm. So you're always good with figures, eh? You tell me you could look at a block of figures and you could pick the mistake in your head, basically.
Yeah. I used to say that to people over the years, the numbers talk to you if you listen to them. And,
Well, I was a bit the same with words. You could look at a story or a block of words, and you could pick out the mistake just like that. And you'd be the same with figures. What sort of money were you earning back in those days?
$32 a fortnight, Max.
Yeah, geez, and most of that would go to mum and dad with board.
$20 for board, so $6 a week. That's to spend on myself. Yes.
And what if you ran short? How would you survive if you ran short?
In the bank, we had a system, because back in those days it was all post and what have you. So if you got a check from, say, a Commonwealth Bank somewhere, and that'd have to go in the post, and it was all balanced. So you'd write out a check, cash it, and then jam it in there, and then hopefully the money you pay went in before the check bobbed back again.
Well, it's probably the auditors wouldn't be too happy about that if they heard about that nowadays, but just shows the ingenuity of the human brain. Now, back then, hold-ups, they didn't have the security measures that they've got today with CCTV. How did you guard against hold-ups?
Mate, it was. We all had every teller had a pistol underneath their counter, and it was. They were. And once every year you had to shoot them off, Max. So so to go to the pistol range. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a stop along the way, wasn't it, on the way to the range?
Yeah, it was out on Mount Louise there, somewhere there, and you had to drive past the Dally, so...
The Dalrymple Hotel.
The Dalrymple Hotel.
So you stopped there to refreshment.
Yeah, for a refreshment before you even... And, I was only about 15 when I got collared into that one, so...
So you're having a drink at the Dalrymple at 15 years of age, going out to Mount Louisa Range to shoot the pistol.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hit too many targets, I wouldn't imagine.
Not too many targets got hit, Max, I can assure you, not only by me, but most of the people that were there.
So what were you doing socially? Did you have a car, or what did you do to pass the time after work?
Well, mate, it was one of the reasons we were so good with numbers was the fact that you couldn't leave until everything balanced. So, if you wanted to get to the pub, you had to make sure everything balanced. So it was a given. You had
Pretty
to get
good
smart.
incentive. Yeah. So I used to drink at the Stewart pub back in those days.
Stuart, yeah, and when I worked the banks in town there, the Herbert was a fairly we frequented it.
And the old Chit Chat Coffee Lounge.
Yeah, Chit Chat Coffee Lounge and all those. Well, the whole place has changed. The people you would have seen the
back in those days. Life was pretty simple back then.
It was, actually.
But you were drinking. Legal age was 21 back then to have a drink. You must have looked a bit older than your actual age.
I don't think they really bothered, actually. It was sort of, provided you weren't causing trouble, Max,
Yes, mate.
You're troublemaker, then you draw attention.
A good Catholic boy from Mulgathella would be no trouble with you, I'm sure. No, not that we ever found out anyway. So you decide on a change of career of 1977, and I gather that your time at the copper refineries was pretty important to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, it was MIM back in those days, Max, and copper refineries was probably one of the biggest employers in Townsville back in those days. And
what were you doing there? What sort of role did you play at the copper refinery?
I had a number of roles. I started off in metallurgical records and then sort of moved around to paymaster there at one stage and those sorts of things, and sort of I did start an accounting degree there as well. So, but sort of always around the numbers and that sort of stuff. The metallurgical records, you actually had to go and count the big blister copper slabs from Mount Isa and those sorts of things. And
so, there's a sense here, a progression that you're constantly improving yourself, getting more qualifications and more responsibilities you're going through your life.
Oh, always, Max. Yeah, and I guess it's probably, I always challenged myself, no matter what I did. I guess, unknowingly, but I guess that was the way I was wired. So.
And you still keep in touch with the boys from the copper refineries?
Yeah. Actually, Nago, first boss at copper refineries. Nago passed away not so long ago, sadly, and he was a legend, and he was actually very much tied up with Brothers rugby league, and he actually coached Brothers for a few years for their Brothers A grade, and I think he was in the '67. Foley Shield, Townsville Foley Shield team that won.
And you picked up another nickname there at the copper refineries too, didn't you?
Yeah, actually it was Nago that gave it to me, Tex, yeah.
We're going to go to another break now, Graham, and the song you've chosen to take us to this break is Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater. Now, most of our older listeners remember as soon as you hear the first...
Support your team at your club.
It's one of your favourites?
Yeah, mate, yeah, that era of music was pretty amazing. It really is. And it's still popular today, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Well, let's hear Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Don't go around tonight, well, it's bound to take your life. Life is remembered by moments. The moments that define us, that make us laugh and cry. The moments that take our breath away. And most importantly, the moments spent together. Morley's has been helping Townsville families honour and celebrate life since 1961, offering quality, affordable service and unmatched experience during your time of grief. Station sponsor Morley's Funeral Home, 2 Martinez Avenue at the Lakes, and morleys.net.au.
With over 50 years of operation in North and Western Queensland, A. Gabrielli Constructions have delivered a diverse range of building projects, from major commercial offices, residential developments, to warehouses, shopping centres, educational facilities, and are proud sponsors of your community radio station, Triple T 103.9 FM.
Looking to let someone know you care with the gift of flowers? Look no further than our great sponsors at Away with Flowers. Blooms and gift arrangements for all occasions, online or in store. Desley will look after you. Delivery available and even same-day delivery if ordered before 1pm. Visit awaywithflowers.com.au, 218 Ross River Road, Aikenvale, or phone 4775 2335.
G'day, it's Dr. Carl here. Now, we all know the incredibly exciting things that science has given us, like medicine, electricity, satellites, Wi-Fi, and the internet. But it's where science can take us, which is really exciting. Think robotics and AI, driverless cars, 3D printed food, and space tourism. In fact, the future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. Find out where science can take you during National Science Week. Visit the website to find an event near you.
You ain't nothing but a hound.
Weekdays from 12.
Galveston, oh Galveston.
The Classic Cafe.
Knowing me, knowing you,
A taste of the classics.
I got you, babe.
A slice of this.
It's too late, baby, now it's too late.
A good serve of this.
Mr. Sandman.
And for sweets,
Everybody's got the boogie fever.
it's the Classic Cafe. Weekdays from 12 noon on 103.9 Triple T.
Welcome back to Over a Cuppa, our regular Monday morning chat show. We're chatting today with Graham Cotter, the Augathella fella and the man in the hat. He's got a few, the Buddha of the bush. He's got quite a few epithets or nicknames, whatever you want to call them. Some of them we can't publish on air. Welcome back, Graham, and thanks for sharing your life story with us.
Thanks for the opportunity, Max. Good to catch up with you too.
Yeah, I hope our listeners enjoying our chat. Before we went to the break, and thanks for choosing the great music, Graham, we were talking about your time at the copper refineries, and many of our listeners would have worked there over the years. The copper refinery is a very big employer and a well-respected employer. I think Mount Isa Mines, without them in northwest Queensland, we just wonder where the hell we'd be. What'd you do? You left. Well, you were there quite a while, 77 to 94. What'd you do after you left the copper refineries in 94?
Well, Max, when
and why did you leave?
Well, actually, one of the reasons, things were tough, financially when you had families back in those days, Max. And I actually had a part-time job delivering newspapers before I went to work at the copper refinery. So, and then the opportunity come, the bloke I work for, Alan Slattery, a lot of people out there know Alan as well. Unfortunately, he got cancer, and he approached me, and I was back, had my ears pinned back, trying to finish the commerce degree, and he come up to me, give me a call, and he said, "Graham, I'm in trouble. I need you to do me paper run." I'd given it away for a while there to go back to uni, and I thought, what do you do? This was his livelihood, and anyway, so one thing led to another, and before he passed, I finished up buying the paper run, and it sort of suited, and it was a lifestyle it was a good lifestyle, actually.
Yeah,
Max,
but odd hours, you're working in the middle of the night while everyone's asleep.
Yeah.
And of course, back then we had the recession we had to have, 21% interest rates. I mean, these were, and you talk about tough times. I mean, there's a real tough time.
Yeah, they were really tough.
And you got kids growing up, and you got to support the family.
Yeah,
it would have been a troubling time for you.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt, Max. And I actually had 3 jobs. I actually penciled at Cluden as well. So back in the days when the bookmakers and all the rest of it.
So you did the paper run. That's where I got to know you back in those days when we were both at the Bully. What came next?
Well, actually, while I had the paper run, I actually went back to uni, even though I hadn't finished my commerce degree. They let me do, because of the work experience, they let me do an MBA. So I did a Master of Business Administration at JCU.
There wouldn't be too many Augathella fellas that have got an MBA.
Oh, there's some pretty talented people come from those bush towns. They really are. It's pretty amazing, and and I guess it was always an ambition that I had to have a tertiary qualification, Max, and it was a sort of a, how do you say, it was something I had to prove to myself that I was capable of. So and
that again comes back to that diagnosis in later years where the fear of failure.
Yeah.
It kept driving you, and I think it's a pretty good motivation. I think I might have had a bit of that too. I always hate the thought of failing, and it just drives you to keep getting up and keep throwing punches as best you can.
Yeah.
So you eventually bought into a tyre, or set up your own tyre business, and that would have been a big gamble at that stage of your life.
Well, it was I joined Neil Brothers Transport. There was two brothers there, Graham and Harry. Harry's still alive, Graham passed. And it was just after I finished my MBA, actually, and I knew Harry because Harry had paper runs as well. So, anyway, they were sort of chasing someone in that admin type finance side of things. So I signed up there, and on the basis that I had a bit of equity in the business, and it wasn't long into that. That was 2005 and 2007. We got this opportunity to get in the world of tyres, truck tyres mainly, and unbeknownst to us, it was we were set up by a chap that come from the industry that had his own agenda, and it was about 3 months into that business venture we realised that we had a problem. So we bushed him, and then I become, how'd you say, salesman. The accounting side of the thing wasn't a problem, but I was a storeman and whatever. There's
chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah, there's a long way to the back of a 40-foot container of truck tyres, Max. I can tell you that now. Doing them by hand, I can assure you.
God. So you turned that business into a bit of a gold mine, and I guess that was a combination of your experience in logistics, accounting, and your overall business now. What'd you do? Did you sell the business eventually?
Yeah. So you don't achieve those sort of things, Max, without, you got to surround yourself with good people. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to do that. And, but the transport business as well, because 2010, Graham, one of the Neil brothers, he passed. He had a massive heart attack. So I actually had to step into that role and manage that business as well. So, and, we turned that business from we carted mainly for Vinadex, so specialised transport, and turned that in. We got a big contract in that Surat Basin for the coal seam gas, and that was massive. Yeah, so and did the but that comes back to technology. I was able to float across both pretty easily, and
it turned into a national business, the tyre company.
Yeah, it is now. We got taken over by a public listed company. So yeah, but
so about 2018, you've had a couple of relationships. You've got 8 kids that you're caring for and providing for. 2018, big change in your life. What happened?
Well, the kids are well and truly gone by then, Max. So they're off our hands. So, but I guess I knew I had to. The tyre business was due to be sold, and in 2019, actually, that sale fell through. And I thought, what are you going to do with yourself when you've done that? Because I've always sort of spent most of my life being self-employed in some shape, manner, or form. And so I thought I'd be a business coach, and then. I thought, I'm done with business plans and cash flows and whatever. So what's the most important part about being in business is where your head is. And that's where I stumbled onto that hypnosis of a lady by the name of Marissa Peer. And just watching a YouTube video, and I thought, that makes sense. And it's something that I picked up and haven't been able to put down, actually.
So now you're a full-time business coach and life coach.
Yeah.
And you do your podcast, which you mentioned earlier. You've written a book called Don't Suck the Pencils. Yeah. That's a pretty catchy title for a book. What's the reason for that?
Well, it was I guess I was an advocate for the road transport industry, and especially owner drivers and small fleet operators in that space. I actually wrote a column for Big Rigs magazine, and it was all about business, because one of the biggest shortcomings in that space, and why a lot of those operators fail, is due to a lack of business acumen, and I always knew that I was going to write a book at some stage, but I didn't know what it was going to be about. But that one made sense. So basically, the columns that I wrote for Big Rigs, I consolidated those into a book, and then picked up a cartoonist, John Allison. He does the cartoons for Owner Driver, which is another transport magazine, so John did the cartoon. So it's an easy read.
It is a good read. I like the cartoons and the common sense approach to what you've written too. Makes some sense. So nowadays you've got that business interest here. You've got 150 acres up at Reed River, and you've got cows and pigs, and you also breed bucking bulls.
Junior bucking bulls, Max. Only the little fellas. They're Dexter cross. So it's pretty good going to watch those little fellas bucking out of the radios. And
so what else do you lend your expertise and voluntary sense to other organisations?
Yeah, well, there's one couple in particular. I have one of my passions is that suicide prevention and men's mental health in particular, and so I'm a what they call it, a lived experience volunteer with a couple of organisations in that suicide prevention space, and then but the other one that is the Inspiring Brighter Futures, and that's mentoring year 9 and 10 students in schools for it only takes an hour a week, so if anyone wants to follow that one up, it'd be much appreciated, because our children are our future, and what these kids are, it's called onwards and upwards, so they're taught values and those sorts of things, so that, and they finish up writing their own vision statement, and to see them, it's pretty amazing actually, see them shuffle in at the start, and it's just a one-term type program, and an hour a week, or a bit over an hour a week, and then to see them just change, and all that takes, Max, is someone. Well, it's a structured program, so they, but to have someone, an older person or whatever, to talk to there, they just, sadly, it's not, we don't have time. They're too busy there.
Typical of the modern world we're in now. Graham, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to contact you? You've got a website? Or?
Yeah. Our website is called rapidradicalwellness.com. So,
have you got the phone number?
Yeah, mate, 0458 743 500.
Well, if anyone needs help out there or would like to volunteer with some of the organisations Graham's talked about, urge you to get in touch with him. Now, Graham, we're running out of time, as we always do, and there's plenty more we could be talking about. You've had an incredible life, and being an old bushy that's come to the big smoke, no doubt your heart is still in the bush, and the song you've chosen to go out with is a Slim Dusty classic. And I guess when you hear this, you'll be thinking about your time in the long yard. When you finally get to that point, you've still got a bit of fight left in you, but tell us about Leave Him in the Long Yard by Slim Dusty. Why do you like that song?
Well, Slim's an icon. So, I guess we're all going to be pensioned out there in the long yard eventually, Max. So I thought that was sort of appropriate. So when you're starting to crack 70, just about, the long yard's not too far away.
Yeah, well, I might see you out there, mate. I've got a 7 in front of my age too. So let's think back on a great life you've had, Graham, and continue to have, and self-improvement has been the thing that's driven you all your life, and congratulations on a life well lived.
Thanks, Max.
Let's hear Leave Him in the Long Yard by Slim Dusty.
He has seen 100 miles.